For months, the old man shared his meals with a stray dog, never asking for anything in return. But one morning, the animal arrived carrying something in its jaws, a gift so unexpected, it brought the old man to his knees in tears. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The park was always quiet in the early afternoon, long after the morning joggers had gone and before the children arrived after school. An old man sat on the same weathered bench every day, his cane resting between his knees, his eyes drifting over the swaying trees. His silver hair caught the sunlight, and though his face was calm, there was a heaviness in the way his shoulders slumped. He had grown used to the silence. Since his wife's passing, the days felt longer, emptier. The bench had become his refuge, a place where he could remember her, a place where time slowed down. He came not to meet people, but simply to sit and breathe in the world around him. It was on one of those afternoons that he noticed a pair of amber eyes watching from a distance. A German shepherd stood just beyond the fence, its ribs faintly visible beneath its coat, its stance cautious but curious. The old man stayed still, pretending not to notice, but the sight lingered in his mind. From that day on, his routine was no longer entirely his own. Somewhere out there, a dog was waiting. The next afternoon, the old man came to the park with more than his cane and his thoughts. In a small paper bag, he carried half a sandwich and a crust of bread he had saved from lunch. He placed it carefully on the ground near the bench, then leaned back, pretending to focus on the trees. Minutes passed. Then, from the edge of the path, the German shepherd appeared. Its ears flicked, head low, paws slow and deliberate. The dog's eyes darted between the food and the man, suspicion etched in every movement. The old man didn't call out. He didn't coax. He simply sat in silence, letting the dog make the choice. Finally, the shepherd crept closer, snatched the bread, and retreated several steps before eating it in quick, hungry bites. The old man smiled faintly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Day after day, he repeated the ritual, bringing scraps, leaving them closer each time. The dog's hesitation lingered, but the distance between them began to shrink. It wasn't friendship yet. It wasn't trust. But it was the fragile beginning of something that neither of them had realized they needed. Weeks slipped into months, and the old man's quiet visits to the park no longer felt lonely. Each afternoon, the shepherd was there, waiting, near the bench, tail flicking the dirt whenever the man approached. The sharp edge of caution in the dog's eyes had softened into something almost expectant, almost hopeful. The man began speaking to him, his voice low and steady, the way one might talk to an old friend. "You remind me of myself," he would say, breaking a biscuit in half and holding it out. "Both of us alone, just trying to get through the days." The dog would take the offering gently now, no longer snatching and retreating. Neighbors noticed the strange companionship. Some smiled at the sight of the old man leaning on his cane, talking to a dog that seemed to hang on every word. Others scoffed, whispering that he was wasting time on a stray that would never love him back. But the old man didn't care. Every wag of the shepherd's tail, every patient look from those amber eyes filled a void no one else could touch. The dog wasn't just surviving anymore. He was beginning to belong. One crisp autumn afternoon, the old man settled onto his usual bench, scattering crumbs of bread at his feet. The German shepherd approached without hesitation now, his gait confident, his eyes bright. Instead of snatching the food and retreating, he lingered, sitting close enough for the old man to hear the steady rhythm of his breathing. The old man chuckled softly. "You're getting bold, aren't you?" He extended a trembling hand, and, for the first time, the dog didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned forward, letting the man's fingers brush through his coarse fur. A spark of warmth passed between them, unspoken but undeniable. From then on, the dog followed him when he rose to leave the park, never too close, never intruding, but always near enough that the man felt his presence at his back. It was as if the shepherd had taken on the role of silent guardian. Each day, the man found himself talking more, sharing memories of his late wife, stories of his youth, even the aches of growing old. The dog listened in his own way, amber, eyes steady, ears flicking at the sound of the man's voice. For the first time in years, the old man didn't feel invisible. He felt seen. The morning was unusually still, the kind of silence that seemed to hang heavy in the air. The old man shuffled toward the park with his cane, expecting to find the shepherd waiting in his usual spot near the bench. But today, something was different. The dog appeared from the trees, moving with purpose, his tail wagging faster than usual. Clutched carefully in his jaws was something small, wrapped in dirt and leaves. His eyes gleamed as he trotted straight to the bench, lowering the object gently at the old man's feet. At first, the man frowned, assuming it was trash, an old rag, perhaps, or a piece of scrap picked up along the way. "What have you got there, boy?" he asked, bending slowly to take a closer look. The shepherd sat proudly, chest heaving, eyes locked on him as though urging him to notice. The old man bent down and lifted the object with trembling hands. He brushed away the dirt, revealing something far more delicate than he expected. His breath caught. His heart thudded in his chest. This wasn't random. This wasn't just a dog's game. It was a gift, and it was meant for him. The old man's fingers trembled as he brushed away the last layer of dirt. What lay in his palm wasn't trash at all. It was a worn photograph, the edges curled, the surface weathered by time. He blinked hard, his breath catching in his throat. It was her, his late wife, smiling in the sun, captured in a picture he thought had been lost forever. He remembered searching years ago, tearing through boxes after the funeral, desperate to hold on to every piece of her. He never found it. And now, here it was, delivered by the very dog he had been feeding. His eyes filled with tears. He sank onto the bench, clutching the photo to his chest as sobs broke through the silence. The shepherd tilted his head, whining softly, as if he understood the depth of what he had just given. Neighbors nearby stopped in their tracks, watching the scene unfold. One woman whispered, "That dog he knew." The old man reached for the shepherd, burying his wrinkled hand in the thick fur around his neck. "You brought her back to me," he whispered, voice cracking. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel grief alone. He felt hope. The old man sat in silence, the photograph pressed against his heart, the shepherd resting faithfully at his feet. For months, he had given the dog scraps of food. But today, the dog had given him something far greater, something priceless. He wiped his tears and looked down at the animal, whose amber eyes watched him with quiet devotion. "I can't let you go back to the streets," he whispered. "You've given me more than anyone else could." When he rose from the bench, the shepherd stood too, tail swaying gently. The man nodded, as if sealing a promise. "Come home. With me, boy." And just like that, they belonged to each other. The house felt different that evening, alive again. The shepherd padded across the old wooden floors, exploring each corner before finally curling up beside the armchair, where the old man sat. The photograph now rested on the mantel, safe at last, illuminated by the soft glow of a lamp. For the first time in years, the silence of the house wasn't heavy, it was comforting. The old man leaned down, gently scratching the dog's ears. "You've given me back more than I ever imagined," he murmured. The shepherd let out a quiet sigh and rested his head on the man's slippered feet. Two lonely souls had found each other. And together, they were no longer alone.